Do we have Bob and Andrew out there?
We do.
I'm here.
Hi, Bob.
Okay. Very good. And Tiffany, you ready?
Yes, all set.
Okay, we will call to order the HARC meeting of Wednesday, November 16th at 5:31 PM at Rebecca Hall, 113 West Columbia. It is a hybrid meeting. If you want to join by phone, it's 301-715-8592. Meeting ID is 892-817-95500. Tonight's passcode is 164444. Just as a reminder in the introduction, our mission is and our purpose is to preserve, maintain, and enhance the historic character, scale, architectural integrity, and cultural resources of the town of Telluride and the Telluride Historic Art District. So we will, before we do the roll call, we have staff, we have Erica online, we have live Tiffany and Jana.
And Allie.
Allie is live here with us for coming. And from town council, Jesse, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And we'll take the roll call.
Kieran Landon.
Stacy Lake. Matt Lee.
Mark Shambaugh.
Elisa Muganova.
Bob Mather.
Andrew Williamson.
Okay, we have a quorum. And before we have an introduction here, we'll look for a motion for the meeting minutes of October 18th to be approved.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Oh, dang you.
Kieran.
Because of that? No. Kieran, yes.
Stacy, yes.
Matt, yes.
And Mark, yes, and only if
Bob,
you.
yes.
Okay. Andrew.
Andrew, yes.
Okay. And the special HARC meeting of October 16th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve them as written. This is Bob.
Matt will second.
Kieran.
Kieran, yes.
Stacy, yes.
Matt, yes.
Mark, yes.
Bob, yes.
Andrew, yes.
Okay, and then the special HARC meeting of October 30th. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as written. This is Bob.
Matt will second. Kieran, yes.
Stacy, yes.
Matt, yes.
Mark, yes.
Bob, yes.
Andrew, yes.
So it's amazing. We have the accuracy and Piper's out and Tiffany's taking her place. And welcome, Tiffany. And Jana, I'm going to turn it over to you for announcements.
Thank you. First, we'd like to welcome Elitza to the HARC board, our newest HARC member. She was appointed by council on October 24th. And she'll be the second alternate for now. But do you want to introduce yourself to the board, Elitza? You maybe know everybody.
I know some of you and maybe some of you know me. My name is Elita. I'm a registered architect. I have been practicing in town for about 10 years. From Bulgaria. This is where you hear an accent. And excited to be here and for this journey, and hopefully this is a good work session, and I'd like to participate and give constructive criticism as much as possible.
We've got a great background. We look forward to your input. And I thought it was Southern, like Mississippi or something. You're okay. Anyway, a special welcome. We've not always had, except for the last year, but a full board, and there's so many recusals and other situations that your vote will become very important on certain days. But today is an informal work session. So it's great to have you at this first meeting for your kickoff. Okay.
So next, regrettably, this is Erica's last HARC board meeting with us. She is on Zoom with us tonight, but has already made the move to her new house in Oregon, in Bend, Oregon. She's graciously agreed to help me for a while part-time from Oregon, which I'm very appreciative of, but we're gonna miss her a lot. So, Erica.
Hey, Erica.
Hi.
Well, I'll get to see you Friday and say my final goodbye, but thanks for agreeing to help out Jana.
Of course, yeah.
And we'll
really appreciate all you've done.
Thank you. I am sad to be leaving, but excited for new adventures.
Send us some windsurfing photos from Bend.
From Ben?
Yeah, that's got great windsurfing there. Nearby.
Nearby, yes, nearby.
Okay. John, anything else?
And that's all for now. Thank you.
Okay. We'll welcome any public comment on non-agenda items tonight. If you have a comment on something that's not on our agenda, raise your hand electronically, and then I don't see anybody doing so or in the public. So we'll pass on that, and we want to go with our process slide, or
You know, we don't have any public hearings
Well, that's true.
tonight, so I didn't have the slide prepared.
I think in 9 years, this is the first time I remember it's 100% work sessions.
Agreed. Yeah, Bob might remember.
And we always
this,
encourage it, but
But yeah,
be careful what you ask for. You got 4 of them. Great. All right.
people
Well-
are taking us seriously finally, right?
Geez.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, well, we'll begin the first work session. And I should note, I'm recused from number 2 from geographic proximity. The overlook, but I'll actually be in the public for that one. Is anybody else recused tonight?
I'm recused from Peter's project,
Oh,
item number 3.
all right. Okay, well, we'll start with the Hotel Columbia re-envisioning. And we've seen this before, consideration of an application for work session on new construction pursuant to Land Use Code 5201C. The legal description is Block 1, Lot B, West Telluride Edition, Columbia Hotel condominiums according to the condominium map recorded March 19th, 2009 in Plat Book 1. AT page 4185 is defined and described in the condominium declaration recorded March 19th of 2009 under reception 406252, County of San Miguel. Address is 301 West San Juan, Zone District Accommodations 2. Owner, Columbia Telluride LLC, applicant Alpine Planning LLC, and staff member John Wenzel. John?
Yes, thank you. This is a work session for the Hotel Columbia. I don't think it needs too much introduction as everyone's familiar with the hotel. But it is at the northeast corner of Aspen Street and San Juan Avenue, across from the gondola station and the River Park Trail. The hotel was built in 1996. It is inside the historic district. It's also in the Accommodations 2 Zone District and the Accommodations and River Park Corridor treatment areas. As you can see in this map, there are several rated structures in the vicinity of the Hotel Columbia. So the proposal is to remove the existing non-brick addition from the east side of the hotel and reconstruct a slightly larger addition with 587 square feet of additional floor area on the east side. The interior of the existing structure is also to be remodeled and updated, as well as upgrades to the mechanical, lighting, and snow melt systems. The applicants are working with P&Z on some PUD amendments to revise the condominium regime and the configuration and number of hotel rooms, but none of that will affect the dimensional limitations of the PUD or of this redevelopment or new addition. I'm going to keep it brief. I think the applicants have a more thorough presentation they'd like to show you, but I just want to remind everyone that HARC's review at a work session is not intended to vest the applicant or the public with any specific outcome of a future development application. And tonight, HARC is asked to provide feedback on the proposed mass, scale, and architectural character of this new addition. So if you have any questions for me at this point, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Chris Hawkins to introduce
Any
the
questions?
project for the applicant.
I
Please.
question.
Mhm.
How is the number of parking spots determined at this site?
So that I believe will be a discussion at Planning and Zoning Commission as part of their PUD amendment.
Yeah, we don't have any jurisdiction for number. Okay. Chris.
Hi, good evening. First, a few introductions. Chris Hawkins, Alpine Planning, Blake Plato,
Michael Britt, flew in from San Antonio.
and we also have Ted Plato on the Zoom call who'll be presenting, and then Bridget Evans and Dylan with Salt is also on the team, so. Thank you for your time tonight, really appreciate it, did not know we would be on 4 other work sessions, so. So the ownership of this was mentioned earlier, it's Bridget and Bruce Evans. They own all the condominium units in this project. It was actually created into a condo hotel at one point in time. And then the market fell out with the Great Recession, and fortunately, none of the condominium, well, one of the condominium units sold, but then it was brought back in underneath Columbia Telluride LLC. So it's all one ownership group today. It's a mixed-use property. There's 14 condominium hotel units with 21 keys, 2 affordable housing unit condos, and a restaurant condo. It was originally approved in 1994 for the PUD, and the HARC new construction was issued as CO in 1996. So quite a while ago. And then as far as the existing PUD variations, we just put this out there just for facts because it's something you look at. There's a 60% site coverage allowed on this site and the building height of 40 feet. It's measured to the midpoint of the turrets, and also there's a really long gable roof form on that runs in an east-west direction, and so that's where it's measured to. And there was a parking payment in lieu with the waiver down to 11 spaces. We'll get more into that with the formal HARC application and how that works, but I'll just note that the parking requirement has gone down because the planning director made a code interpretation that said there's no restaurant parking requirement in the AC2 zone district. That's still a conversation with P&Z that we're gonna have as part of the PUD, I'm sure, but just a little bit history on that. Treatment area wise, this is on the far east side of the AC2 zone district. This is the older treatment area map.
Chris, is it supposed to be changing on the screen?
Oh, it was shared. So hang on, something happened. Can we do this again?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Is this with PNC tomorrow?
No, we had a P&Z work session last month.
Right, I attended that, but
Yeah.
is there,
No, we haven't submitted for a formal PUD amendment application yet. We wanted to hear from HARC.
Yeah.
First.
thank you.
But this is the far east side of the AC2 zone district. It's not the best map color because it's really close to the WC, but this is the line right here between basically AC2 right here and the warehouse commercial treatment area. So you have San Juan Avenue come down here on Aspen Street and go down. And so San Juan Avenue's, as far as treatment area goes, you have accommodations 2 with gondola terminal and the hotel site. Then you have the residential commercial with the gondola corridor overlay district on Oak Street. And then you've got warehouse commercial further down. So very unique context, in my opinion. It changed. And then zoning wise, this really stands out. You can see the pink is AC2 zoning. And then directly across the street, the gondola is commercial. Then you've got residential commercial straight to the east along Oak Street. And then, commercial district going up towards Main Street. And the reason I point this out is because you just have this mishmash of zoning and treatment areas where we're trying to have one streetscape. So just something to think about. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Ted, I believe, or
No, I think.
Bridget.
oh, Bridget, right? Okay, sorry.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bridget Evans, along with my husband. We own Hotel Columbia. I first became involved in 2008, became a share owner and with 2 other partners, and bought my partners out in 2021. And in 2008, we took the hotel, which maybe many of you remember, it was built in 1995, and converted it to a hotel condo regime. And it did sell, like Chris said, one of the units, and then pretty quickly pulled the units off the market. It was always my opinion, we should try to keep this property together so it could be a hotel. I always said someone will come along and want to own a small hotel in Telluride. Little did I know it would be me, but that's my opinion. So anyway, our vision is really a vision, not to sound hokey, but It's an important legacy asset for us, for our family. We've been here since 2000. Our 4 kids were raised here. We're, you know, very proud owners of the hotel, and we want to do right by it. And, you know, I think maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, we had a replacement reserve study done. And basically none of the systems have been touched. The roof has not been touched since 1995. So we really think of this as a 30-year renovation. And at the same time, we want to renovate and we want to upgrade. And it's currently a 3-star hotel. And our vision, it's actually a 3-star condo hotel. I mean, it's operated to some extent like a condo. And we'd like to upgrade that to a 4-star boutique hotel. So kind of one of the first decisions that we made, which was kind of hard to make, is to, you know, gain approval to abandon the condo hotel regime and turn it back into hotel rooms. And that was really because it's kind of the way that everything's configured now. They're not great hotel rooms because they have to have a lot of condo elements in them. And they're not really great condos because it was really built as a hotel. So we're trying to really be true to what we feel it really should be. And we've got a great management company now, Coral Tree Hospitality, who's really helping us think through what do we have to do to reach this 4-star quality. And our vision is to make this a wonderful, you know, kind of gem of a hotel in that great location, something the town of Telluride can be proud of, and something that offers kind of a juxtaposition of some of the big, more resort projects, you know, in Mountain Village. So I'll go through this pretty quickly. I think that we should get to the design, but it's pretty much a gut renovation. I mean, the more that we kind of work, REG Engineering out of Crested Butte is our engineering firm, and work with Lake Plato and Salt. But we plan to, you know, replace all of the HVAC systems, the building ventilation. We have a lot of issues with sound and odor from some of the restaurant ventilation, the roofing, the balcony flooring, the snow melt system, and the parking court and sidewalks. We would like to also rationalize, we're calling it, the number and layout of all hotel rooms. It's currently 21 keys. We have requested with P&Z that we change that to 18 keys. And that's really about trying to make them a little more uniform, but also that we can get to that 4-star status, because, and the average hotel room size would be 450 square feet. Right now, the average hotel room size is about 430 square feet. So on the face of it, it's not that different, but it goes from, you know, 300 and some square feet to 696 square feet. And so you can't have half the building be small units. If you're going to qualify as 4-star, you can have 1 or 2 that are smaller, but in general, they have to all be pretty uniform to the 450. Complete gut of all the hotel spaces, rooms. I mean, we were looking at walls today. Probably most of the walls are going to be moved. All hard and soft furnishings, decorative items, everything. Electrical systems, interior and exterior lighting, and then of course technology upgrades to, you know, kind of meet today's standard for a 4-star hotel. I say possibly here, we said possibly here, we're going to renovate all of that. There's all the fitting, fixtures and tile, everything's coming out. We have 2 deed restricted units in the basement, and they definitely need new kitchens, and I assume new bathroom fixtures. I just didn't have a chance to really look at those, but definitely new kitchen. I'll call them kitchenettes. And then again, the ventilation and the HVAC, which will make our neighbors really happy. And is that my last slide?
I believe so.
All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Ted and Michael.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you all. And so as Bridget mentioned, our desire is to really transform this very important part of the city into a vibrant place. And there's a lot of work that's going on, obviously, in the interiors. And really the most significant thing on the exterior is reworking the eastern end of the building, where there is a fairly ill-conceived, what looks like kind of a wooden addition that doesn't address the street and doesn't do a lot of things. And so that very important corner that's across from the gondola, we feel is a huge opportunity to really kind of reimagine and really reconnect this important part of the city. So the idea is to change, to remove that addition looking thing and replace it with a new form. The existing is 4 stories, replace it with a 3-story building with a roof that has a really thoughtful connection to the street, and really address Oak Street with an active engagement along that street, so that it's a really active pedestrian space, which it is. Just the hotel, I mean the configuration currently just doesn't really connect. It's as if it turns its back to it. Go to the next image, and then. Very important is being a better neighbor. The mechanical systems of the restaurant are down on the ground, so there's a lot of kitchen exhaust and noise, and putting that up into a rooftop piece. So cleaning up the edge of the street, being thoughtful about how we work the massing of the building so that it breaks it down into a kind of a really relatively simple form with some setbacks. That kind of reinforce the nature of a lot of Telluride, where it's kind of built over time, and create a much more modest kind of building at one end that is a nice contrast with the much larger masonry part of what looks like an old Victorian structure. So go to the next. And then using materials, this is a real opportunity. You have the gondola building, you have Smugglers and the brew pub, some of the buildings that were more industrial when, that were more responsive to when the train went through here, picking up on some of the feeling of that so that you really feel the significance of what should be a really important and wonderful plaza. And then, by the way, it has exactly the same site coverage as the old edition, and then we're certainly working within the height limits. So I want to just walk you through just briefly, and then Michael will take you really through the plans here. But let's go to the next image. So this is existing conditions. So you see Aspen, you see San Juan, lower right-hand corner is where the gondola is. Go to the next. And so this is the shape of our addition, which is taking up the same site coverage as the existing. And then go to the next. And so these are just some quick 3D pieces for you to better visualize what we're doing. So you can see on the upper left-hand corner, that's Jonah shared with you what some of the photographs look like of that rear kind of eastern end. So it really was kind of felt like a service side of the hotel. So the idea is to break that mass down, have one simple form that's really small and elegant and feels like it belongs on the street. Create a parapet piece that's behind it, where we can put all the mechanical ventilation equipment and also get it off from the street level and pull it up, and basically now create a building that is really connected, that addresses the street, that is a contributor to this important part of the city. So I'll let Michael take it from there.
Thanks, Ted. Ted's my boss, so he's going to be the angel or demon on my shoulder. How this goes. So here we go, Ted. These are the existing floor plans, actually, and these are just diagrams showing the different uses in the hotel from the basement all the way to the top. The colors are a little bit hard to read, but the big majority color yellow is really the hotel rooms. Red is commercial on level 1. And you can see on the east side, the orange is the new kind of townhome that we're doing for the addition. Slide. And we'll go up from the basement up just to show you kind of how this is developing in plan. No major changes to the basement. You can see this kind of faint orange dash line. That's zigzagging. This is the cut line of what will be new versus what's existing. So it's kind of running north-south through the page. And now you'll see in the hard black, we're still doing the new existing at the orange line, but the hard black is actually the private townhome that will be part of the new eastern addition. So a recessed entry at the street for whoever is using that facility. And we're also considering adding this additional recess plan west, which will be possibly another egress door or potential entry into the restaurant, depending on what happens on the ground floor there. And as we move up, we are again renovating all the hotel keys, ripping out walls, as Bridget said, and new plumbing and all that. And then the townhome, you can see that the plans are still in flux here a little bit, but you know, we're trying to get a 2.5 for this unit, about 2,200 square feet in total for the new addition, and that's a net add of about 500 square feet, as mentioned previously. And so then on the top floors where we'll have the living, the kitchen, and the primary bedroom. And you'll see that we're starting to set back the facade on the top level and still maintain that recess all the way up. And then as mentioned previously, we are incorporating now this mechanical yard. So this will be a flat roof with a parapet where we'll hopefully be able to take all of that existing equipment that is currently in the back of the hotel and visible and audible to the neighbors. We'll move that up into the mechanical yard so we can screen that more properly for what we would consider today's standards. This is just some images of similar type materials, and we'll go through the material slide here in a second of the adjacent properties nearby. We're considering really leaning into, you know, really simple, as Ted mentioned, massings and forms, really simple materials, more of a kind of a chalet massing. You can see on the left here some inspiration of more of a slight gable roof as opposed to a very high pitched one. Looking at using endicott brick, possibly Corten metal, wood where appropriate. So mixing materials a little bit, breaking up the facade, not only in the volume, but also in the materiality. Some existing slides of the corner at San Juan and Oak, and then also or House. And then you can see here, as this is the image noted previously. And so I think what we discovered as going through this design process was, as Ted mentioned, this really felt like it was a service side of the building. This building was designed at the same time the gondola building in Oak Street Plaza was being designed, but they were not built yet. So this really was the back of the building. It was, the whole building was really addressing Aspen Street in the corner, but kind of turning this back to the east. And all these little additions have been added over time. The sloped glazing, where there's the restaurant addition, and also the elevated private dining room on the far right side of the screen there. And so again, trying to create a little bit more order with what we're trying to do on the east side, simplifying and also still trying to provide relief along the facade. You can see here, this is just a 2D graphic showing the perceived massing on an elevation, and we're only increasing this about 4% based on the overall massing of the entire street facade. And then we have an existing above of that streetscape all the way to the next neighbor to the east, and then kind of the proposed. And the intention with this new design is really to take, you know, the existing Hotel Columbia, the Victorian portion, and step down and let this new addition really be a bridge to the adjacent property. And as we work east across towards the plaza. We met with staff previously to this meeting and got some initial feedback. The scheme on the left was actually what we came in with previously, which was a 4-story addition. And after some feedback and conversations, we felt like it was probably more appropriate to scale this down a little bit, provide more relief above the second level, step back the facade on the south elevation, really trying to address some of those comments and think of how this addresses the neighbors as well. These are just some existing perspectives and elevations of the block. And then lastly, here's a sketch perspective from the Plaza Gondola building on the left, existing Hotel Columbia building far back, in this new addition, kind of the harder line there in the middle. And you can see here now, we're coming up 2 stories at the ground level. We have relief for the pedestrians. We step back after the second level. We'll change materiality to be more glazing for the living room and kitchen at the top story of that unit, and then a simple gable form.
While you're on that slide, how much is that 3 feet step back on that south elevation, and what is it on the alley side?
At the top of the 3rd level?
Yeah, level 3.
We're working through that right now. It's anywhere between 2 to 3 feet, and it's a little bit squishy right now, but we're trying to kind of pin down exactly what we feel is appropriate, what works with the plans. And so that's on the south elevation. On the east elevation, it'd be the same thing, where that step will kind of turn the corner at the glazing and step back as well.
You can kind of see that in the site plan view. With here, the setback where it steps back this way in the balcony.
Yeah.
Stepping down in the back.
I think that's our last slide.
That is our last slide.
Okay,
And then I think Dylan was just gonna.
Yeah, just one thing. So one of the goal for this meeting is that they brought me on to help with construction documentation, things like that, but also to go through this planning side to make sure that we work with these different jurisdictions and get cohesive comments. So the real goal of this is to make sure that we get comments from you relative to mass and scale. There's a lot of consultants involved in this project, and they're all concurrently moving forward. And so we don't want to get too far ahead with our P&Z and our PUD and the amendments to that without getting clear directive from HARC. And that was why the first meeting was with Jonna. I think that Lake Flato has done a great job to sort of address those concerns she originally threw out. But this, I just want to stress that if we can get clear direction on mass and scale in particular, that would be extremely helpful to our process as we go through this.
okay. Well, we'll summarize at the end, but mass and scale is really the primary subject. So I'll let whoever wants to start from the board with questions or comments. Since it's a work session, can be informal. We can have an exchange rather than just questions only, but who would like to start?
I'll start. First and foremost, I think the overall vision is sound. I think it's responding to the contextually to the changes that have happened around it, especially the Telluride station, the gondola station, and you know, needing more of an emphasis in that direction. I feel like I'm really glad you had the slide up that showed, you know, your self-monitoring in a way from the with the help of staff from the 4-story to the 3-story form. I think this new form is certainly in my mind appropriate, mass and scale wise. It's I'm going to use the word subordinate. I don't mean to use it in the way we use in a lot of our conversations with, but it's not trying to compete with the existing hotel building. And as I read through, you know, all of the highlighted the guidelines that were in this staff memo, the one that I thought maybe was missing that I just want to throw it out there as a discussion topic. I don't necessarily, as you all know, can argue myself from either direction, either side of something, but the 2026 roof form, and this wasn't in the staff memo, item C, number 4, orient ridge lines perpendicular to the street when feasible. And I understand that the main gable form on the existing does run east-west, as does the adjacent building further east on San Juan. But the existing, I think the existing building really takes advantage of those smaller gable dormer forms. And that really, I think, breaks up the scale on San Juan Avenue. And having the east-west gable and the new form without any sort of dormer, I'm wondering if that may be more in keeping with the guidelines as a north-south gable, as a north-south ridge. Just like I said, kind of throwing out that as an option. I did notice on that project to the east, there's a small form in the back that does have a north-south gable form. And I'm not trying to mirror or mimic or copy. I just wonder how that ridge line being so consistent along San Juan, whether or not that achieves stepping down, being consistent that way. Like I said, I'm not convinced myself one way or the other, but that's where my mind settled as I contemplated. I'll jump in on that last comment that you had. I feel that their gable orientation right now, east-west, sort of is one, it makes the form simpler. It
differentiates it from the existing hotel. And then from the perspective view, it's gonna bring sort of the mass and scale, because you're just gonna see that eve line versus another dormer component that's gonna raise the height. So I appreciate the mass and the scale
And the
and the
simplicity.
of it right now. The one comment that I had was the setback on the third level. Is it enough? I sort of scaled it off at 2 feet. I don't know if that's enough. Maybe 3 feet's enough. Maybe 3 feet's not enough. That's kind of the only real issue that I had with it. Was that setback.
Well, and then the eave overhang sort of dilutes it a little.
Yeah, yes.
This is Bob. I agree with what everybody's been saying. I wonder about the pitch of the roof being that low versus what we normally require in Telluride. I agree that I think the step back should be 3 or more feet. So it's clearly differentiated from the first 2 floors. But that's really all I have at the moment.
Bob, I do agree with you. I have this highlight. We must have talked about this in a previous meeting because I have this highlighted from previously. And without reading the whole thing. 26, again, policy roof form talks about in rare instances, slopes being as low as 812. Now, on a simple form that's this size, being steeper like that would increase height and we'd run into other issues, but it's just a conflict in the guidelines, which we run into all the time.
That's why we're in the middle of review.
Just Mark.
Yeah, go ahead informally.
Yeah, sorry, just one point on the roof form. This is one area where, even though it's in accommodations too, and it says you should do steeper roof forms. The street's commercial, and in commercial you can do flat roof forms. And so this is a little bit of a bridge between to go to a shallower roof form. I just put out there for that comment. That's all.
Well, I only had one note when I marked up and referenced the guidelines, and under accommodation 6E1, step down and step back, the street and the alley. And so trying to be consistent, but being also looking at the adjacent buildings, and so forth. My note was that it should be on Main Street setback 5 feet, but I wanted to, which would help with the mass and scale, and this pedestrian 6E. But I wanted to ask the board, or if you could put up a slide that best represents the alley side setback. Well, the gable's full heights, but could we go to the alley view?
Yeah, I'll share again. I just know there's no alley here per se. And so,
well, it's a dead end. I guess.
It's only,
Goes in
it's
there.
a private lot. There's no alley there, but stepping to the surrounding residential properties and that relationship to the back.
The north side.
Yeah, is important. And I don't think we have a good rendering yet that shows that, because it's all oriented to the front, but we'll make a note of that and we'll be able to provide that for you for your HARC application.
I mean, that needs to be really significant, more so maybe than even the front, on when you think of stepping back towards the residences versus a commercial street.
Yeah, I already showed on that slide where it recesses back
Yeah.
significantly, and that's a lot right there. And I think we could look at, is there a way to do some lower level structure there to provide further stepping? That's the location of the current mechanical equipment area. It's going way up to the roof. So there might be the ability to do some more like architectural, roof changes down lower, a shed roof kicker or something to help.
Yeah,
Stepping.
I do think it's worth noting as well that the new building is actually pulled farther south. The back elevation is coming away from the neighborhood. So our setbacks are actually getting better with the new addition. The current footprint is actually larger than
I saw that on that line. It's about 2 feet further back than what's existing, right?
2 feet away from the property line.
Right.
Yep.
And then another 3 feet plus or minus on this third floor.
Right.
And look, but let's, Kieran and Andrew should stay in because we want to leave you with some specificity. I'm not sure we're going to give you the exact footage because, you know, we need to see it and then we can better tell and understand. But
We'll provide you details on the current eastern and southern setback of that addition, and what's proposed too, because I think that will help you understand.
Yeah.
The changes.
You'll pick up. Yeah, just kind of agree with you, Mark. Setback third floor, step down to alley street, you know, so.
okay.
And also the overhang on the roof kind of obscuring the setback is something that should be looked at as well, because it needs to be apparent, setting
See-
back.
They could get a usable deck if they set it back also, which would be add value to the property, but I may mitigate my thought on that since it's not really a throughway alley. I don't know, how's the rest of the board? Doesn't bother anybody? Yeah, okay.
I mean, first glance, you think, oh, it's an alley,
So
but it's really not.
it's the street side concern so far. Andrew, any other comment you have?
No, I mean, you guys have kind of covered everything that I could say. Definitely agree with that. You know, there's not really an alley there, so I don't really see as much need for stepping down there. But definitely one of concern that I have, and Chris, Dylan, you guys may can answer it, is as is on that third floor roof. I know there's a break on there, but is that thing protruding like over the pedestrian walkway, like water dripping, maybe potentially ice, anything falling down? A concern at all?
On the existing condition?
Like how that how it kind of protrudes over the deck and almost looks like from your last slide that snowfall potentially and water could leak down onto the street, onto passing by pedestrians.
Okay, I think I understand. Yeah, I think based on some of the comments here too, I think we'll probably need to address that in either case, but we'll make sure that that roof is not overhanging into the public right of way or any pedestrian.
Yeah, if you have snow melt up there, take care of it, but. Yeah. So, again, won't leave with exact footage, but.
And Mark, I just want to be clear, because we were talking about different, are you talking about the San Juan frontage increasing that?
Yes, the
setback?
third floor setback, yeah,
Just the third floor?
only.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they did a good job in setting the building back a little bit. That helps. But-
Well, and the existing building and the neighboring building to the east are pretty consistent along.
Yeah.
Along that street, and it's a one-way street. So it's the vehicular traffic isn't as great.
I mean, Dylan, Chris will chime in later when we get to windows that it's probably not gonna.
Yeah, I think the fenestration is just placeholder for now.
Yeah,
And so
okay.
we know that as the plans are adjusting, we'll start to dial those in.
Good. I'm really calm about it. It's, wait till next meeting. But
The nice
anyway,
thing on restaurant spaces, you guys love windows on first floors, so
Yeah.
we can get that. And
okay,
I just also note there are plans for awnings and more architectural design
yeah.
of the application that'll help with that stepping down and perception there too, for the formal application.
Okay, so in summary, south elevation, board would like to see it set back further. Yep.
Yeah, just one question. If we can clarify on roof pitch, because I know you talked about shallow roof pitch, and that was batted around.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that too, to give them some more feedback on that. I didn't pick up on the slope was as low as it is. I'm not sure, I mean, if we're expressly not allowing those slopes, I think it fits well with this project. I think it reduces the mass and scale from the perspective. This is only about 20 feet wide. It's not that big. I think I'm fine with this.
I agree, because of the width and being minimal and again, it lowers the mass and scale. I'm okay with it. It should inspective guidelines.
I'm okay with it too. I just brought it up because a lot of times the guidelines are especially purposefully vague, and here there's some actual slopes given. So just bringing it up.
Thank you.
I think in general, this would be a vast improvement upon the addition that's there right now. The appendage.
So do what you can on the footage to maybe get past 3 to consider the 5, but the board is not going to give a specific number. There's a range in there that, and again, if the roof, as 3 comments have made already, if that roof, is brought back so it overhangs less, that will help the step back up there look better. So there's a balance there. So anything else? I think that's the singular item. So
Pizza?
Wow.
Anything?
Good job. That's
what do you think?
Oh. Wow, it's a great team and awesome design, but I should not be talking about that. I agree with the low slope roof. I think it's it will mitigate the roof appearing bigger and the building taller. So I agree with, I'm okay with a low sloped roof as well. And also with the setback a little bit, you know, a little bit. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kind of unanimous.
Thanks for coming in.
Yes,
All right,
you did. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
appreciate it. Thank you, Jonathan.
very good.
Thank you.
All right. Stacy, I'm going to recuse myself. from this next one and go in the public. Since I have a interest in it, I'll see you in a bit.
Do you have the next item printed out?
Yeah.
Cause I will need that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will open our agenda item number 2. The project title is Lot 15, The Overlook. This is a consideration of an application for a work session on new construction pursuant to LUC 5-201.c. The legal description is Lot 15, the overlook at Telluride subdivision, PUD East Telluride Edition. The address is 725 Primrose Lane. The zone district is Hillside Developing 2. The owner is Josh Ritty, applicant Dylan Henderson, Salt Architect, and the staff member is Erica Jensen.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a work session for the new construction of a single family home. Who wants to go? There we go. The vacant lot is located on the west end of Primrose Lane on the north side of the street. It is in the Hillside Developing 2 zone district and Developing Hillside treatment area. 2 important notes about this work session are there is currently no vehicular access to the site, and the memo did focus on streets and parking heavily. And very exciting, the new steep lot design guidelines apply to this application as well. So HARC is requested to provide general feedback on the new construction, and as a reminder, HARC's review is not intended to vest the applicant or public with any reliance as to the outcome of the formal development review process. And I'm happy to answer any questions before we hear from Dylan.
Erica, you mentioned the streets design. There's not a lot of graphics or information about how the street's gonna work in with this project. Is that something that we should focus on with the applicant or not?
I think so. I think Dylan can speak to that more about how the street will be expanded. You can see from the aerial that it ends before this lot. And I think the memo focused heavily on that because it is a pretty large driveway with a large amount of parking as well. And I'm not sure the process of public works and all that of expanding the street, but Dylan can probably speak to that a little more in detail.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the applicant.
Great. Let's share the screen there. And okay. Yeah, okay. So thanks so much, Dylan Henderson. So the most important thing about this lot for me is this is a double lot. So it's the only double lot that's up there. So it has a much larger square footage. It's 12,780 square feet on the lot size. There's a PUD on this subdivision requiring 3 off-street parking spaces, which of course is the garage is obviously larger to accommodate those 3. We are on a site that's over the 50% slope, so it's a very steep site, obviously. And so a couple of things I wanted to just read through. The home is designed close to the southern front property line to provide access to the home and its 3-space parking garage and reduce the amount of grading. So pushing the home further back on the property, and I went through a lot of design iteration on this, but it increases significantly the cut and fill on this, or the cut really, and that's in contravention to the Tyler design guidelines. So that was one thing from a design sort of ethos standpoint of where we started. I was trying to minimize the amount of cut on this site. The proposed home is designed in the town grid natural topography with the north-south shed roof building forms and flat green roofs in line with the underlying topography of the site. Cut and fill on the site has been minimized using step design that has the finished grade and the same as existing grade around both the home, except for the terrace steps. So I'm going to go over to the application. So this house is, again, on a double line. It's only 57% of the 50% site coverage. So we're allowed 6,390 square feet. My site coverage is currently at 3,692 square feet. So we're significantly lower than the allowable site coverage. And only 80% of the allowable cubic volume, because these properties are all down on cubic volume as opposed to floor area. So we're 80% of that. I already mentioned the reduction in the grading by stepping. Step back is consistent with other properties that have been developed on Primrose, which is not that many yet, but it is consistent. By reducing the amount of site coverage, we have quite a bit of open space. There's also a no build zone on the uphill side of this where you're not allowed to build past until you hit that rock wall fence that's up on the high parcel. And then sort of these flat green roofs broken up by the shed roof forms definitely reinforce the topography and break up sort of these volumes as they step up the hillside. And so most importantly, sort of my design thought process on this is let's do staggered broken up forms that are defined by these shed roofs and live roofs with stepping forms which reinforce the natural topography of the site. That was sort of the narrative that I started with as I went through this. And so obviously I'm hoping that that's been a successful exercise. I did work through this pretty deeply with Erica because this project did get caught up in the moratorium. So we had to sort of stop design. It gave us a chance to come back and relook at it. Originally, this home was quite a bit larger in order to sort of capture more of the double lot allowance that we had. And the owner, in wading through sort of the moratorium, rethought that and come back with a smaller project, which you can see just on the lower level. A lot of lot area left over. I just wanted to point out on the site, this part of the topography north of the line on the page there, that's that whole no build zone. So that already has a pre-existing rock wall fence. And then we're building lower portion. To address the comment about the road, so David Below, Uncompadre Engineering, is doing the driveway design. There's a lot below us, actually, Mark Jones and Tommy Hines working on that. So David and Tommy and I are working through that. I have not seen the proposal for them on the driveway, but the PUD requirement is that we work sort of holding hands and make sure for the highest and best use for both property owners that we're developing a driveway that works for both. And so that is what we're doing currently. We just happen to be first into the work session format. And so I don't have that civil plan yet, but that would be obviously something I would bring in for Freeland. But the concept is that Primrose Lane will continue straight on this rail. So this center line is right here. There's actually a trail easement currently, but that'll be a driveway that follows that center line before this lots and then services the lower lot and obviously our parcel. And so what I am looking for and why I wanted to bring this as a work session is sort of that just we've got a moratorium. I want to make sure that we're looking good with the new site design regulations that you generally like the overall forms and what we're proposing and get your feedback.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I think you've done a really good job here with the mass and scale. I have kind of two comments. One is window glazing. I think we'll always have those comments. And the only thing is the eastern side of this project, you're doing a great job of stepping back this massing and blending it in to the hillside. The western side is more of a straight line, at least for the first 3 stories. So I would suggest and hope that you could sort of integrate a little bit of what you've done on the east with the west, the east to the west as well. And it, seems like you have maybe a little bit room in the setback to shift over and not sort of lose your square footage. But I think if you could incorporate a little bit of that staggering and blending into the hillside, it'd be a very successful project in my eyes.
Yeah, if I could add to that, I think that the west retaining wall being the height of the garage, perhaps that could also be stepped a bit as well. It may work well with the what's being suggested in terms of the massing of the building to stagger that on the west side as well. I was wondering about the space in front of I guess it's the media room to the east of the garage. And what is that considered? Is that going to be all landscaping, or is that a parking space?
I wanted to do it as pervious paving of some sort, Bob, but the idea would be that it would be overflow parking for like if I came over with a car, I wouldn't pull in his garage. It would be the only place. So there's really no parking up there.
Yeah. One thing when I first saw this, I thought, since it is a dead end property, you're gonna extend the driveway all the way across the front maybe it's just dumb, but I just think to look at the idea of flipping the garage to the east side, so you're not doing a whole new road in essence across the whole front of the site.
I actually started with that, Bob, and the owner had a strong reaction to having his first moment arriving to his house be 3-car garages. So
Well, I can agree with that too. Yes.
So he really didn't like that.
Okay. Let's see. Let me see. High retaining walls. Yeah, the amount of glazing, and I think there's a lot of variety in the glazing, and perhaps it might be, reducing it a bit, but also more consistent with the glazing throughout might help. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much what I had. I think the massing of it overall works well. I like the stairway, the walkway up to the entry. And looks like the landscaping will be blended into the side. Of course, we'll get into that in the details. Want to do as much natural landscaping there as you can that fits in with the topography and the existing conditions.
I wanted to make some comments too. It's a cool design, feeling it's awesome. It flows with a natural topography greatly. I do feel that flipping the garage, as Bob mentioned, just what we talked about, I think that might be a better approach. And I'm sorry about hurting your client's feelings. But since this is a dead-end street, I agree that we can mitigate and make this driveway perhaps a little bit better if possible. And I know you're using impervious materials, which is great. However, if the driveway is shorter, then your impervious material will be a little bit reduced as well. Another thing I was looking at, according to section 3B2, the concrete retaining wall was wondering if it will be acceptable by the rest of the board members, perhaps changing the color of the concrete so it appears more natural and blends better with the setting, the natural landscape. That might be a great way. Another thing I was looking at, there's like a really cool cluster of scrub oak on the west side of the property. And I know you were 13 and a half feet, right? As a setback. I'll tell you.
Yes.
Well, basically, my thought is this is a very steep lot prone to
It's 15.
15. That's
It's the
great.
setback.
Yeah, I wonder how many scrub oaks you guys will be able to preserve there, because they do retain the slope from, they're protecting the slope from erosion.
Okay.
Mhm. And one more comment. 25A on your window glazing. Let's see, I believe that's level 3 in front of your, excuse me, on the hallway. No, maybe that's an easier place to reduce your glazing. It's an awesome staircase. It opens out to an amazing view, but perhaps if you're on the laundry, you might not need so much glazing.
Could you point out where you're talking about on a plan? I'm a little lost.
So, Elisa was saying that third floor hallway.
Sheet A 2.3.
It's this run of windows here.
And what's the comment, Elisa?
I was thinking maybe this is a good place to reduce the glazing, since you don't really add anything by having windows in front of the laundry room.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you just needs to look at all of it with a little more fine tuning. All the glazing.
Dylan, I'll just read through the notes that I took as I went through the guidelines that were highlighted in the memo. Under 10, cut and fill, minimize the height of walls and retaining devices. It's pretty clear that retaining walls should be no higher than 4 feet, but they could be considered on a case-by-case basis. On the west side of the garage, they're certainly higher than 4 feet. It doesn't extend very far lengthwise, but I gather that's to have a walkout area to the hillside there. I think that's a good goal, but I think maybe it's just the fact that it doesn't step back from the garage door facade, that it just is perhaps more pronounced. I was cruising. Oh, go ahead.
I'd counter that and say, I think that integrates that garage form into the hillside.
Into the hillside?
versus stepping back. And I understand, I mean, we have allowed certain sections of wall to be taller, and that would be an example of, I think, what's appropriate there. Now, if you wanted to bring the top of it down to the top of the guardrail height and then step back with another retaining wall, that would be better. I think that's the way I'm reading that.
Sure. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I got down to 18 mass and scale 1 buildings that are set into cuts in the hillside, and I wrote okay, because you've done that. Low profile buildings are good. Okay, great. Check. Let's see, I got hung up on 25 windows like everyone else has. Glazing's a little excessive, and they're not. 2/3 light is not required in this treatment area. Is that true? I don't think that it is.
Not currently.
Nevertheless, yeah. And then this was my first chance to really go through the steep lots in application to a project, mass scale form. Number one, I wrote seems to have been accomplished. Upper level should be set back substantially from the street of the lower lot line. Clearly, that's been done. On B3, step sides down to side yards. That's, I think, has been accomplished pretty well here on the east side, but the west side, not as much. And I think that's important here because there is no more development to the west. So this southwest corner, and I have to go out and go do some hiking around to see where this is really perceptible from. Certainly from the gondola, maybe with some binoculars, maybe. But I think that southwest corner maybe deserves a bit more focus. And then number two, the roof form, design roof forms to reinforce the slope of the hillside. And what I wrote down was that, I appreciate that all of your forms are either flat or nearly flat, but I don't know that flat, and again, this is our first time through these applying these guidelines to a project. So my question was, is flat really reinforcing the hillside? The hillside's not flat. So to me, there needs perhaps the roof form that is sloped. I mean, I really do appreciate the vegetated roofs. I think that's a great strategy, but it seems like maybe there needs to be a roof form or a couple roof forms that more approximate the slope. Anyway, that's what I wrote.
We've got the one area to the west that has that's really the only one that has a sloped roof, the metal roof, if I'm not mistaken. And that small piece that goes across the where the laundry is. Perhaps if that was a little steeper, would reinforce that idea. I do like the idea of the green roofs. I think it's great. Help blend the house into the hillside. I agree with all the discussion about the west side that it does need some stepping east to west, if it makes any sense, to break that up just a little bit more on that side.
Can I interject really quickly?
Yes.
2/3 light doors are required in this treatment area. And also an important note is there is a pedestrian easement on this property, and so that southwest corner will be highly visible from the trail that starts at the end of this road.
There we go.
What was the first thing you said?
2/3 light doors are required.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to the comments about the extension of the road and the garage location. It's sort of occurred to me that I don't think Dylan necessarily gets to dictate what the neighbor to the south is going to do with his access and driveway. So I think we need to assume that there could be a driveway through the entire length of this frontage of this lot.
And from what I understand, that is the case. So to preclude our development, if that not forced a longer driveway to their proposal, that would be a problem.
I couldn't understand what he said. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, sorry. I was saying that there is a lot that's being developed below ours, and I think that it is going to dictate the whole length of driveway. So if this, like if the comment was flip your garage so you have a shorter drive, and then we ended up with a longer drive because of the
other ones, yeah.
property below, then that would obviously become a real issue for me. So I'm hoping we can allow a driveway in front of the house.
And so the pedestrian way would continue at the end of the new driveway, correct? To the west?
Correct. And to be clear, this property and the extent of that western boundary line is a part of the PUD subdivision, right? So if that was town land, I could understand, but this is legally to be developed land, right?
Hmm.
So I would hate to preclude that unnecessarily, I guess. Because that would hand tie what's happening down below us as well for future development. Which I think would be problematic, to be honest. But I appreciate the comment. But
I'll jump in as well, also kind of dwelling on what Stacy and Bob have mentioned about the low slope roofs. I think if those were slightly steeper, I think that would be a nice balance between the green roofs, which I appreciate, and the flat decks. That would help the architecture.
Well, yeah, I think I was looking at, is there an east elevation? I think it really jumped out at me in elevation, which you have to be careful to read, you rarely, if ever, perceive a building in purely in elevation. We don't see them that way, that we see in perspective, but this is, I think, the elevation that east elevation is instructional, I think.
I would
In
also
front of that, please.
Bob, A3.2, the east elevation, I
Uh-huh.
think it's where it really popped out to me.
Could we go to that sheet on?
Yeah.
There, please.
I will get there. Hold on. Is that it, Stacy? I can't see the number.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would help if it was a little steeper.
You're gonna run into your windowsill, but
A little bit, yeah.
Well, he's got to work on the windows anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Dylan, when you come back in with the application, I really appreciate these 3D views perspectives. It gives us a sense of what the massing feels like. We can understand it from sort of a bird's eye perspective. I also think it would be helpful for street and ground level perspectives.
Okay.
I think that'll really bring home the point that this is a very low mass and scale from the street perspective, with the way you've articulated the architecture.
it might look 2 stories.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh,
You get what you needed?
I
Oh,
public comment.
well, hold on, we gotta open it up to public comment.
Okay,
You do?
so could you put up A 0.1?
Sure.
I'm Mark Shamba. I'm the neighbor to the south. I sold them this land. And
You're the neighbor to the south?
yeah,
Just, okay.
and to the east. Anyway, first of all, as Dylan noted.
Mark, if you're recused from this item for proximity, you can only submit written comment. Mhm.
You can do that when you get a formal application.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay,
Never mind.
Thank you, Mark.
Anything else? Your question?
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Thank you guys very much. I
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in for a work
You
session.
got all the comments.
I did. Thank you so much.
work sessions.
All items.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stacy got my.
I'm going to recuse myself from this next item. I have an ongoing contractual relationship with the applicant.
Okay, few minutes. Next work session is 228 West Columbia. It's consideration of an application for a work session on a new construction pursuant to Land Use Code 5201C, legal description, block 19, lot 6B. Address is 228 West Columbia. It's in the HR zone district. Owner is 228 West Columbia LLC. Applicant Sante Architects and staff member Jana Wenzel. Jana.
Thank you. This is a work session for 228 West Columbia Avenue. This site is on the north side of West Columbia Avenue between North Oak and North First Streets. A north-south alley runs along the east side of the property. The existing two-story structure was built in 1976 and is not historic, although it is surrounded by rated structures. In 1992, Lot 6, which this property is part of, was split into Lot 6A and 6B. The lot in question tonight is Lot 6B. And at that time in 1992, conditions were placed on Lot 6B that said that Lot 6B was limited to one structure and that the ridge height of any structure on the lot was limited to the height of the existing structure. So it restricted any future development on this lot concerning the height. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting tomorrow, P&Z will consider a request to amend this condition or the plat note that limits the height on this lot to allow an additional 4 feet to the ridge height for a new structure. I believe that the existing structure on the lot is about 23 feet to the ridge. Peter can correct me. So what we're talking about is not the average height, but the actual ridge addition to the ridge height. HARC won't be asked to provide comments on amending the plat note, but the applicants have requested this work session to get HARC's feedback on the mass, scale, and height of the proposed new house on the lot. And I will mention the same disclaimer that HARC's review at a work session is not intended to vest the applicant or the public with any specific outcome of a future development application. Peter Sante, Tom Kennedy are here. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any for me. Sure they'll...
Any questions for Jonna?
No.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant. Share your screen.
Hi, Tom Kennedy, just a couple of initial thoughts on behalf of the applicant. Peter Sante is here with me. The owner and applicant's 228 West Columbia LLC. And we do appreciate your time tonight. We do have an application in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission tomorrow night, which is for an amendment to a plat, just to amend a plat note. We're not asking for a PUD amendment or anything like that. It's just an adjustment to a plat note. So we're not asking for a height increase in the sense of a PUD amendment or variation like that. We're asking for a little bit of relief on a plat note that would allow for an increase in height that would still fall under the height that's allowed in land use code. So just to set the context correctly, we thought that it would be helpful if we came in front of you guys to kind of let you give some thoughts on the mass and scale. We think that with the plat note adjustment, the building that we're coming forward with fits in very well in terms of mass and scale with the neighborhood. And we wanted to show you that information. And maybe there's some thoughts that would be helpful for the Planning and Zoning Commission to hear as we're presenting our thoughts to them tomorrow night. You don't have review and recommendations, so that's in a way some of your comments would serve in that capacity, but that's really the context of what we're here tonight to talk about our plat note adjustment that would allow an adjustment to that plat note for a height increase that still falls under the height that's allowed in the zone. So that's the context of what we're looking for. And it is something that we have been working with the neighbor who the 6A and the 6B lot. We've spent a lot of time with the neighbor working through our plans, our designs, and that adjustment to the plat note and the height increase. And we actually have a covenant, a revised covenant signed by them that would get recorded with the plat note that would accept that adjustment to the plat note and the 4-foot increase. So anyway, wanted to share that background with you. Here's Peter.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So a year and a half or so ago, our clients, the Havlicks, purchased this lot. We diligently designed a little home for them, 2-bedroom home, and submitted it to Jonna to HARC. And we learned in that process with the help of town that there was a height restriction on this property that we were unaware of. It was not discovered in title. It was recorded as a note on a plat and kind of got lost. So anyway, we as Tom has described, we have spent the last 9 or so months trying to get a home in the AO2 floodplain zone that complies with floodplain and sits above grade 3 feet. That has an additional height restriction on it with that, and in a town that likes steep roofs. And so we have done our best to compress the design a little bit to reduce the interior volumes. We have made slight adjustments to the height and the slopes of some of the roofs as well, in order to reduce the measured height. It's complicated, as measuring height by the land use code requires, by the fact that this was just referred to a ridge height, not an average height or a kind of how it's measured more accurately. So we have referred to that as it's been recorded previously with a ridge height. John is correct. The ridge of this home, as it's shown, is still 2 feet under the 25-foot allowable mean roof that we could ask for permission to have. It is 4 feet taller than the existing roof. It is roughly a block away from us west. And you guys have hopefully seen, I know you've seen it, but hopefully you sort of glanced at it knowing this was coming. The 1976 apartment / garage that has been there is what we are referring to, not in these drawings, but the 6 or more pages that I'll sort of flip through here are in the packet you guys have seen or had a chance to glance at, hopefully. As Tom said, tomorrow night we're in front of P&Z and we're asking permission to do a 2-story home. Shy of that, we're going to have a lovely 1-story home here. And so we're hopeful about that, but the expected question from P&Z is going to be, well, what does HARC think about this? Is this mass and scale appropriate? What was their reaction? So your guys' reactions will be relayed to them so that they understand how that's perceived. So with that, here's a perspective from the south, looking south a little bit east. You see the subject home in the middle, kind of featured. Adjacent garage to the west and left is a part of the 6A lot. It did not exist there since 92 or whenever this was done 30 years ago. That home was added on to, and you will see now has a detached garage of its own. In 92, when this went through the process of creating lots 6A and 6B, it was necessitated because there was a historic lot line under this 1976 apartment, and they couldn't sell it that way. So they were sort of keen to be able to sell the home and hold on to the apartment. And I think as a part of that, they were comfortable putting a height restriction on this. I think the context, we will be talking at much greater length with P&Z tomorrow night about how the context in 30 years has really kind of grown up around this little apartment in a lot of ways. And among other things related to frontage and sort of development patterns during the historic period and since. Try and move on. The land use code table won't dwell on. This slide proposed below, existing above, is a south elevation from Columbia looking north. 6A house in both cases is far left. The apartment or our proposed house is next to the right, and then there's the adjacent SMDC house, which is one lot removed a little further uphill, which you can also see. And you can also see in a remodeled home, one lot to the north behind our A and B lot, for context in the back as well. This is a site plan. Again, existing left, proposed right, showing the apartment in blue for the existing and proposed the footprint of the new residence, 2-bedroom home. And in both cases, you see the home on 6A and home at 212 North Oak that is uphill and north of us. It's worth noting this garage has a substantial driveway and does cut into the West Columbia curb. This is a useful south elevation showing the garage apartment structure existing dashed. For reference, you'll see that the ridge of our proposed design, the softer grays are, I can't read it right now. I think it's 5 feet, but those are depicted there for comparison. I want to, with this up, mention that this design, it does not, it's not able to have a higher height measurement be developed from a difference between a base elevation of a low grade and a high grade. The way a normal home on a steep hill does for floodplain reasons. Basically, our base elevation is the front that you see here called out, the front yard. That low point is the high point as well. And we have achieved that at the north back, the driveway, the vehicle access is a heavy bar grade. And we kind of have a virtual grade. In that instance, we have actual grade 3 feet below that in that north alley side in order for that to work and to be compliant with FEMA flood regs.
Peter, while you had that slide up,
yep,
that 8893 elevation for the peak of that gable, how much higher is that than the SMBC house?
I have no idea. The SMBC house adjacent on the east of the alley.
Yeah.
I can go back a slide if anybody can.
As far as context of the neighborhood.
Well, it's lower than.
These are.
It actually is lower?
It's, yeah, and it's notably lower. I'm more focused on the house to the west, the A of where the B2, and that you can see the addition behind it as well. Sorry, I'm gonna step
It'd be
away.
hard to relate those two because the SMBC house is set so much further back.
Space, yeah.
Yeah, just so you guys can see here, sorry if nobody else can hear, but the historic house is a little more forward. The addition to the A house, you can see called out at 44.2. We are 39.3. So
okay.
That's 5 feet roughly
below
the existing addition of the A house.
Thanks.
Yep. Again, I'll point out that the SMBC house is a lot back. There is a vacant lot on Columbia that is their lovely yard. East of this.
Or two.
Yeah. So there's that. We talked about this slide here. So I was describing that in normal conditions, you'd have a more favorable height measurement to balance your low grade with a high grade elevation. That's not the case here. This is kind of restrictive, notably restricted by being in the AO2 zone for that. So we're challenged at the bottom of the measurement, and we're challenged at the top for this height restriction as well. But we have managed, we think, an elegant 2-story home on it with compatible slopes that see here in axonometric view. This does show both the adjacent home north, the home to the west, the A lot, as well as the SMBC lot. Again, all of these are in your packet. I'm just going to keep going unless you guys stop me. More of a pedestrian street view, more from the west, looking at the home on A closest, and then their garage in the foreground, and then our proposal home on 6B beyond. And then there is a little bit of the SMBC house we see as well. And then here is more from the east, looking a little more west, SMBC to the right. We're in the middle in the A. So again, I think P&Z is right to ask, what does HARC think about the mass and scale? What do they think about this height? What is their reaction? So that is our goal here tonight. We look forward to any comments, questions.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
who'd like to start?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
As a HARC member, I would rather whittle you down on height, given our own devices, and I just as soon have the plat note wiped away. Without trying to unravel all of the reasons why it's there. I mean, it seems to me that it's there. It was there for the lot A people to protect their view of Ingram. But it sounds like there's a negotiation that's going on with them.
I think it's done.
And but they apparently have enough leverage.
They're good with this.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
but you're still giving up.
Oh, we have,
Yeah.
to your point. Yes, we have not said just make it go away. We have correctly said, well,
Well,
Yeah.
but with that said, and I didn't go through my normal sort of, I wasn't reviewing this whole project in terms of its merit necessarily, but I mean, I will tell you, it seems to check, quickly a lot of the, at least our major boxes, right? It steps back from the street. We'll probably want to talk about, that mass out at the front and whether, that's pedestrian scale and we'll have those discussions. But I mean, there's nothing here that like is screaming to me, you're going to have a major hang up. That's my perception, not being, again, I didn't think this was a work session on this design necessarily, although I can tell you've developed it pretty far. To me, it's more about, is an increase in height a problem with me as a HARC member? And the answer is unequivocally no.
Okay, just do a straw poll. We'll speed this up. Everybody good with that? The height, okay,
Yes.
check.
I don't have an issue. It's
Yeah.
Bob. I don't have an issue.
23'8", they're allowed 25 and anybody else want to chime in? I have just one issue on a comment, but I'm gonna wait for everybody to chime in. Anybody has any other comments on mass and scale?
I don't.
Yes, may I add something as well? While we're talking about the roof. If we increase the roof pitch, so it fits better with the historical setting. And then it adds a bit more height, I'm also okay with that.
Okay.
Just something to
Yeah.
consider.
I mean,
I'm not sure if it's asked for,
not,
but
you haven't normally done it, but I can't say it hadn't been done, and that's a good comment, thank you. My concern is this big mass or projectile out front, which doesn't have anything to do with P and Z. And Stacy brought it up, whether it should, I mean, it's set back, it's in alignment with the other garage, and you can't compare it to the SMBC, like you said, on the east, but it seems like it ought to be either and or further back and or somehow step down a bit, and maybe the material change. I think that's what's accentuating it is this stone, with houses. I don't know, anybody else have that?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. That immediately, that's the mass and scale issue that caught my eye more than just the height. Is it doesn't feel in scale, pedestrian scale, but also with an element that noticeable, kind of obscures where the primary entrance is in a way. I think that's supposed to be obvious per the guidelines. So that could use a little refinement there as well. So just those two things working together, I think.
But to be clear, none of that has to do with the height question.
No.
Right.
But while they come back to us with all these other elements, it's good that we're giving them some other feedback beyond just the height. And I think that if that was set back more equal to, as Kieran said, to the front of the porch rather than looks like maybe a 3 feet crowd of the front of the porch, that might help it a little bit. And then whether it should step down and or change in materials, a combination, it just needs to mirror the traditional context of the neighborhood, and that doesn't. So I think we've given you what you need.
And that's helpful. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
And it seems like the person that maybe either made the motion or seconded the motion to set the plat was Green. It was probably Kathy Green. So I'm sure she'll have some
I'm hoping she has a
illuminating.
clear memory from 30.
Before we lose you, any public comment at all? I don't really see anybody that's on here for this, but any public comment? Go raise your hand. 0 in the audience. So have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Get that. Okay. Our last work session is lot 8 Primrose Lane, in the overlook. Here we go again. Consideration of an application for a work session on new construction pursuant to Land Use Code 5201C. It's lot 8, the overlook. PUD East Telluride Edition. It's located at 825 Primrose Lane. Zone district is Hillside Developing 2. Owners Bluebird Trust 2020. Applicant Elizabeth Bianchi Conklin and Olson Kundig, and staff member Erica Jensen. Erica?
Okay. This is a work session for new construction of a single family residence. It is a vacant lot located on the north side of Primrose Lane. It is in the Hillside Developing 2 zone district and developing Hillside treatment area. As with the last work session on Primrose, the new steep lot design guidelines apply. And much of the staff memo on this application focused on the mass and scale, setting back the upper levels substantially, retaining wall heights, and window and door design. HARC is requested to provide general feedback on the proposed new construction. And as a reminder, as we've heard the last 3, HARC's review at a work session is not intended to vest the applicant or public with any reliance as to the outcome of the formal development review process. And I'm happy to answer any questions before we hear from the applicant.
Questions for Erica? Okay, I assume we're doing this remote. So would the applicant please share their screen and we'll begin. This Elizabeth?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm Elizabeth Conklin. I'm an architect at Olson Kundig, and I'm the project manager and applicant for this project, Lot 8 on Primrose Lane. Tom Kundig is the principal designer on the project. As you may know, Tom is also the designer for the transfer warehouse in town. He is on a flight right now, so was not able to join us, but he has been heavily involved in projects throughout the Telluride area for years and understands the complexities and intricacies of designing here. We understand that it was a long and arduous process during the moratorium this past summer with hours of meetings and presentations to come to conclusions for the design guidelines, and we appreciate your commitment. We attended and listened carefully to every one of those meetings, and we feel that our proposed design does not only comply with the guidelines, but takes into account the spirit of what everyone is striving for. I thank you for your taking the time in this work session to review this project and to provide your feedback. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, great. And can you see my mouse if I'm pointing? Great.
Yes.
Thanks. So this is, as Erica explained, Lot 8 is in the overlook at Telluride subdivision, and it's at 825 Primrose Lane at the far east end of town. The lot is steep with over 25% slopes, few trees, little vegetation on the property. Directly to the west is an open space parcel, and then to the east is an undeveloped lot number 7. To the south, Primrose Lane, and then the right-of-way of Laurel Street, which does not connect through currently. And then up to the north is of the entire subdivision is the additional open space. And you can see on the photos here, not a lot of vegetation. These 2 trees, these 3 trees are in the open space. That is to the west. So this is the site survey, and it delineates the size of the property. It is only 35.5 feet wide, and averages about 170 feet in the north-south direction. The setbacks are 5 feet on the street side, 5 feet on the west side and then 3 feet on the east side with a 50-foot no build zone to the north. Again, we see these are the 3 fir trees that are on the property to the south, and there's just a few trees on the property at the north end. So the proposal is to build a single family home for a young family to live and be a part of the community year round. The owner is on the call now, so if needed, they can chime in. So we realize the mass, scale, and form are the highest priority, and we want to get your input and hope you can see that we're shooting to maintain the character of the developing hillside area. We are interested in your feedback. So this diagram at the bottom shows the structure and how it is set back from the property line. The furthermost face of the building, the lowest level, is set back 34 feet. And then you can see it steps back at the stair tower over 45 feet. We're attempting to create a variety in the face of the wall planes to minimize the width of the structure as it appears from the street. Even though the structure itself is only 27.5 feet wide. So the footprint of the structure is rather small, with the large setback from the street and then all the space to the north as it ascends up the slope. Again, the private space, common open space to the west, and then the undeveloped lot to the east. And then further, we can see to the east, lot 6 is another proposal that has been approved. And our proposal is intentionally different and smaller than these other lots on Primrose Lane. The lot 6 here, and then the lot 15 proposal that you saw earlier in the hour. Total areas for the building itself are shown on this sheet, also over here per level. The total area of the entire structure, gross square footage, is under 3,500 square feet. So this is not a large home. We're attempting to keep the scale of the home similar to others in town. Some building materials here. We're proposing simple and durable materials for this climate. We've got concrete, we've got weathered steel siding, we've got painted steel siding accents and structure trim that would be painted dark in a matte color, not glossy in any way. There's wood soffits and thermally broken windows. Back a bit. A site plan. So we enter the site from Primrose Lane onto a 2-car wide driveway with area for snow storage on both sides of the driveway. And then that driveway leads to a 2-car garage that is set back again from the street about 34 feet from this corner, or 23 feet from this corner if you're gonna, it's an angle there. And then the entry is set back another 16 feet from that face also. So this level is completely below grade except for that front face. And then the second level, this is the kids level, that face of their outside wall is set back 6 feet from the face of the garage. This level is also completely below grade except for that front face to help minimize the mass and the scale of the structure on the site. The third level is the main level on the bottom of the page here, and that is further set back with the face of the living room here and then the face of the stair back here. So at 2 different planes, and then the highest level also has differing wall planes to again narrow the width of the building from the street. So the width of this living room and this primary bedroom are only 20 feet wide. So we're attempting to minimize the structure by setting it back into the hillside. The natural topography remains at each side of the structure. Plantings will be native and match and blend with the surrounding landscape. The elevations, the materials are indicated with the base shown as being concrete and then a clear separation from the concrete to the rusted metal siding above. The building height is below the maximum 31 feet allowed at under 29 feet at the highest point, but then it's lower throughout. At the south elevation, at the lowest level at the garage, you can see that the garage door blends in with the surrounding wall to minimize its presence. The detailing of the garage door is simple and only as necessary. The roofs are low pitched with internal roof drainage to avoid snow shedding. The color of the roof material would be neutral to blend into the landscape. Architectural details are simple with no ornamental detailing. We really hope that you can see that we've taken into consideration the design guidelines and proposed a home that is in scale with the property and the neighborhood, is simple in its materials and form, and respects the town of Telluride. I welcome your questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for coming to a work session before the application. So who would like to start?
Firstly, I don't have any questions for John or Erica. So I guess we'll just launch into our assessment of the guidelines. I did take notes as I read through the guidelines that were highlighted in the staff memo. And instead of reading through each of them sort of sequentially, I'll try to summarize what my main concerns are. I think my first main concern is that the garage level is set back entirely too far from the street, and what that causes is a substantial cut, exposed cut that isn't then filled at that level, and then there's significant retainage on the east and the west side of that cut. I think the intent of the steep slope guidelines is to encourage a gradual stepping back of the levels with the topography. And I don't see that here, and it starts at that garage level by the garage level being pushed so far back. Indeed, policy 10, cut and fill, number 5, and we talked about this in a previous work session here this evening. Retaining walls should not exceed 4 feet, and certainly the retaining walls on either side of that driveway do so. The mass scale and form, policy 18, I would ask the applicant to review again. Buildings that are set into cuts in the hillside. Now here, could be perceived as being a bit contradictory. The garage certainly is set back into a cut in the hillside, but it leads to other negative consequences. I think as you go up to the main level and the primary level, those levels then aren't set into the hillside at all. In fact, the primary level protrudes beyond the level below, which is, it's really going in the wrong direction, in the opposite direction of what the guidelines are trying to lay out. And that's then reiterated again in the steep lot section, mass scale and form. Policy, well, let me not jump ahead. My thoughts on 24 building materials. There's some panelized concrete used. I know we oftentimes allow for the use of concrete, but I think it's almost always board form concrete, not panelized concrete. Panelized concrete is not a finishing method that I'm not sure I've seen it anywhere in town. The weathered steel, it was a little hard for me. I'm glad that there were the images during the presentation. I think the weathered steel is a rusted core tin. That treatment can come across really orange, which would probably be fine as an accent material, but in this design, it's used as a major building element, and I'm concerned that again, that's not a historic use of that material. 25 windows, large expanses, clusters of glass. I felt like the model that was presented us, perhaps, this is a work session. I don't think the fenestration's been, fully developed, but I would caution that at least as presented now, those large clusters of glass will be problematic. And then we get to the steep lots. Mass scale and form policy number 1, 3 or more stories received, these upper levels should be set back substantially from the street. And again, the garage, that's been done at the garage, but not at the levels above that are more visible. Low profile buildings are encouraged. And I feel like this building is trying really hard to be high profile. Again, especially at those upper levels. The roof form, design roof forms to reinforce the slope of the hillside. We talked about that in the previous project. I'm not sure. I don't think, in my mind, flat roofs are not reinforcing the slope of the hillside. Certainly flat roofs are one of the most effective and efficient ways of reducing mass and scale. So their use is vital. However, low pitched or vegetated roofs are more appropriate, I feel. I think the guidelines say. The guidelines say. And then building materials is similar to what I've already mentioned. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Yep. Can go along with that. Pretty much agree with most. I mean, stepping or setting back the upper floors will make this better follow the contours of the hillside. I think that's probably the biggest issue with regards to the guidelines this project has. And yeah, same about the garage being set too far back and creating rather large retaining walls. So those are really the 2 issues that I homed in on as well.
I'll chime in here, say I agree with everything that Stacy mentioned. So I'll draw focus to steep lot section 1A. It's, I think, the primary thing to look at with the massing. And then the secondary thing would be the amount of glazing on the project. Especially the 3rd story and its sort of brow is up against the maximum height, and it's counter to what we are trying to achieve in these guidelines and what we have enforced on other projects.
Yeah, and we indeed chose not to lower that height limit because nobody had approached it.
Yeah.
And we said, well, someone will. And it took a month.
I don't have anything else to add. I think you covered it very well. Thank you.
Well, I agree with what has been said so far. I do believe the garage should move forward, and this is my big concern here. And Elizabeth, a question for you. In your practice, you guys quite often propose these big window storefronts. Have you found a good way to mitigate light spill? A smart way, maybe smart glazing, or I don't know.
Yeah, there is smart glazing. There's glazing that can be made opaque and turned off and on, but
would you consider proposing this here? And I wonder if something like this could be brought up with our board members to allow for more glazing than in this situation.
No, we haven't had anybody propose that, turn it off and on, opaque and then open, but and And as you brought up, the light spill is critical, but still even like from the gondola, looking at massive wall windows, there's other guidelines that support reduction in that.
And reflective surfaces too, even if you make it opaque, it's still going to be reflective surface.
Okay.
But thanks for bringing that up, and I'm surprised people haven't done more of that, but anyway.
It's expensive.
Well, yeah, they were gonna do it at Silverjack, right? And then
They did.
Huh?
They did.
well, they ended up doing it?
Mhm.
No.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I agree with every single point. I just want to emphasize this. First of all, I want to thank you for the modest scale and fit with the square footage of this lot. Half of what could be, or not quite half, but to emphasize the many guidelines, and one comment from Mass and Scale 18 is visually overpowering building form should be avoided. And I think that's what that top flying projection appears to be, is overpowering, and they've already cited the other guidelines that step back into the hill. So please, if you can work with that and modify it. I don't think we have any other comments.
I like to say, I think this is a beautiful design. I admire the work that your firm does. I just don't think this design fits in with the intent of the design guidelines for this treatment area.
I agree.
Thank you for your comments. We will definitely take them into consideration, take those back to the team and explore options.
Mhm. Well, that's true. They did. Thank you.
Just want to call
Thanks.
for public comment.
Okay, public comment. Before we lose you, let's see if any of the public would like to comment. If so, raise your hand electronically. And seeing none. Tiffany, you don't see anybody, do you?
See none.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on. John, just before we close out here with some important items here, do we have any feel like for when these four are coming back? I mean, how fresh will be in our minds at all?
I don't, these are work sessions. They can't have development applications submitted concurrently, so we'll wait for them to submit a development application. I know that Peter Sante's project is quite far along. He has been working on this for 1.5 years, so I'm guessing that it will come back that one will come back fairly quick. Depending on what happens tomorrow.
Okay, well then we'll move on to board and staff discussion, Jonna.
So the first item I have on the list is a draft 2024 HARC meeting calendar, believe it or not. I left a paper copy at your seat and it was in the packet. Typically HARC meetings are the third Wednesday of each month. We've been pretty good about keeping to that schedule. There are a couple of months in 2024 that threw us off a bit, and I want to get your feedback on April. Spring break, I guess, in 2024 is scheduled not for the first 2 weeks, but for the second and third week. And I don't know how many of you that will affect. And then in June, the third Wednesday is Juneteenth, which is now a recognized holiday. So town offices will be closed on that day. And I don't know if you would want to have it a week earlier or a week later.
I think it's a staff thing. Can you get ready in 2 weeks by yourself?
It's always a trick, but it will be on either side. It's going to be a week shorter. So
Yeah.
it
You hurt
doesn't.
yourself in July or.
Yeah, it doesn't matter too much. It may be a lighter agenda.
So you'd move the 12th to the 19th if we
Can't do the.
We can't do the 19th
Holiday.
because it's a holiday.
Okay, so it's either the 5th or
No, it would be either the 12th or the 26th.
I like having it a week before Bluegrass personally.
So that would be the 12th.
Yes, I like the calendar that you've outlined. I think
Okay.
it's perfectly for me.
And does everybody agree? I know, Bob, you're out of the country that time, but
yeah, the 12th I'll be going. In the weeks before.
is everyone good with the 12th of June? Okay, and what about April? Last year or this year, we canceled the April meeting. Partly because we had few applications, but also spring break and people leaving town, so.
It doesn't matter to me, I'll probably be here,
I'm good with 24.
but there's no way to know what the agenda will be like.
No, and I mean, my preference would be to have it on the 17th, which is during spring break, but again, I don't know how many of you that would affect.
I'll probably still be here.
It doesn't matter to me.
I don't think I will be here. Or there.
Could we keep
Here.
it on the 17th of April then
Good.
and keep the regular? Okay. Great.
We always have the Zoom option.
Right.
So,
17th.
do you see any other concerns or issues with the other dates that I've highlighted in red? So, if you think of anything, let me know in the next few weeks. I'll bring this back for adoption at the December HARC meeting. But it sounds like you can put these dates in your calendars for 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're sticking with April 17th, not the 24th. Is that correct or no?
Yes, we're gonna stick with the 17th and
Chair will be on the 19th.
June 12th, and the chair will be on the 19th. Yep. And then June will be the 12th and the 14th.
Okay.
Okay. And then the next item is the review of the design guidelines that the committee's been working on most recently, which are the Main Street commercial and warehouse commercial. And I will pull those up.
Okay. And just offer a forward, John's been doing great. Everything so far that we talked about looks exactly like you said, including those items to be discussed. So thanks for that. We've already done the accommodations, which will leave us 3 more sections. It's easy to say we'll be done January with this project, absent, I don't know about photos,
Right.
but with the narratives and with your help and feedback, we'll put to bed 2 more tonight. So here we go.
So again, just kind of a summary of what we've been doing, maybe for Elise's benefit, is we have a committee of Matt, Bob, and Mark. Myself and Erica have been working along with them to revise the guidelines, not rewrite the guidelines. We're really just trying to clean them up. And after having worked with them now for several years, we recognize contradictions in them, or contradictions with the land use code, or references that are outdated, and some that just don't make sense. So we're trying to clean those up, working through treatment area by treatment area. And then for anyone else listening who's interested, the plan is for this committee to go through each section. We meet every about 2 weeks and go through 1 or 2 sections at a time. We present those revisions here at the HARC meeting so that anyone who's following along can participate. And then once we have all of these proposed changes, we will have a public presentation about them to make sure the community is aware and supportive of these changes that are mostly minor in the guidelines. And then HARC will approve them, P&Z will need to approve them, and Town Council will need to approve them.
In the interim, with the changes we made on Hillside, I mean, I guess we all have copies, but we should be.
Yeah, sorry, Tammy and I talked about giving you printed copies to insert into your books for now. Once we do the complete revision, we'll have new books printed. So the new steep lot section will be updated on the website, on the online version. So they're available on the town's website in the design guidelines section. But I will provide for you sections to insert into your book for now.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions or do you want to go through these Main Street changes?
Do it.
Okay. I think that's about as big as I can make it. Maybe I can. Some of these are consistent through every treatment area. This is one under this first note. It's just clarifying the language about HARC can be more restrictive than the dimensional limitations in the land use code. Committee can help me remember too where we made changes and why if you want
We're
to.
just reordering this.
Oh, wait, right.
Trying to put the most important guidelines first, general.
Thank you, yes. Same wording, just different location.
And are we going to, as we discussed, move, when we get done with this, move mass and scale up front?
Yes, once we get done with all of them, we will reorder the guidelines in each treatment area based on relative importance. So probably starting with context and then mass and scale and then character and then windows and doors and utilities and bike storage. That's the plan. So this one has to do with having no ridge lines in the Main Street commercial treatment area. So we eliminated that one. We've struggled a bit, staff and HARC, about protecting existing vegetation during construction because of current construction methods.
Well, I thought maybe that one was taken out because it's redundant. A is protect and enhance.
It is.
And 2 says protect.
That may be right. And a lot of these sites we're seeing that nothing's being protected because, as you know, they're excavating lot line to lot line. So.
I watched.
Not that we
trees
need
come
to
down
change
today
the
across street.
guidelines to allow it, but. This one was, this is the Main Street commercial treatment area, and we found that the section on pedestrian scale was very minimal, which was surprising. So we took some of the language from warehouse commercial.
Yeah.
To reinforce this pedestrian scale section. So under the policy and then these additional bullets below, because A was the only bullet in this section in Main Street commercial, which was kind of surprising. So giving a little bit more teeth and consistency with other commercial areas. Any concerns or suggestions about the language?
Well, sorry, I was reading.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm a slow reader. A building should step down in scale to the street to Colorado Avenue.
Trevor Street, yep.
But the existing buildings, even historic buildings, don't necessarily do that.
True.
I'm generally in favor of that item, maybe just not in Main Street commercial. It seems like that was cribbed from a more residential zone or treatment area.
Yeah, well, I think it
The
was.
discussion was about that, you know, if you have a third floor, that it needs to step back. So that technically you're stepping down to the street. And also in the alleys.
I see Stacy's point, though, if we're talking about a Main Street, you want 1- and 2-story facades. You don't want to have decks and balconies and porches. Maybe that language should be either struck or recrafted for Main Street.
You could just take out street, leave alley.
Step down the scale to the, well, I don't know. We have other places where we're talking about stepping back the third level, right? So I think Stacy's right. Maybe we can just add out, just have it address the alley.
That good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Again, not encouraging, insisting that buildings step down in scale to the alley.
Try to get rid of a lot of this encourage and maybe possibly and blah, blah, blah.
There's a diagram in this section that doesn't adequately illustrate open space, so we're going to get rid of it, but this number 6 is the it's the text just below the photo that we've added as a separate bullet. This is just clarifying language. I think we talked about how a building was oriented with its primary wall planes in line with the parcel's property lines. It wasn't as clear as.
I think saying
having
parallel is clearer than saying.
This is a consistent addition among all treatment areas, adding a bear-proof trash enclosure.
Were we considering a different language about just wildlife in general? Was there somewhere else that had a more encompassing language? Can't remember.
I think we were just focusing on bears, especially after somebody killed one when their trash got digested.
D mentions bear specifically.
If it's bear proof, probably every other creature is protected from them.
Yeah, never mind.
So, I mean, we really have tried to encourage, especially in Main Street, commercial treatment area, the restaurant specifically, to install a trash enclosure. So far as, waiving fees or helping provide consistent designs or whatever we can do to help encourage restaurant operators to install trash enclosures. So I think this additional point maybe helps push that point. Just a little wordsmithing here, I think, to clarify. Not sure what I did here. If I meant to delete the whole.
No, you made that part of 2.
Or 2.
Yeah, it just runs into
Oh,
2.
right. Still 2. Okay. Thank you.
I remember.
You remember. I'm glad someone remembers. This is third stories on storefronts. And again, emphasizing the subordinate nature of a third story addition.
And clarifying the view is from across the street.
Yeah.
I think this is an important one, change that we made.
And we did, you probably have in your notes, that Shanghai might have been a possible building for the photo.
Yes. We talked about awnings on Main Street. Currently awnings are only allowed on south facing primary facade, so really only on the north side of Main Street. We get requests for awnings on west facing facade sometimes because of the solar exposure. And feel that they would be appropriate. So we added this language to allow them in other areas if HARC and staff feel it's an appropriate location.
National.
Yeah. And then the national actually had one historically, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, we have photos of it, and so it seems appropriate to allow them in other places. Sometimes. This is changes to roof materials, which is consistent with the changes we've made in other treatment areas, which discourage the use of asphalt shingles, except where they're already in use, and then allowing high quality composite shingles or solar tiles, which we have allowed in some projects.
John, my only note there was in the other sections, we said composite or synthetic. I think, but maybe to the architects in the room, maybe it means the same. I don't know.
I think Matt suggested that, right? Composite or synthetic
That's what we did in the others. Just missed that one word.
Okay. Same change to the windows. We added a point about the amount of overall glazing. Because currently the glazing that is part of doors, for example, isn't addressed. So this would address just the overall amount of glazing, including windows and doors and skylights. We are proposing to add a policy or a bullet about requiring 2/3 light doors in every treatment area, no more than 2/3 light door in every treatment area. That's
Not
been
on
a
the
policy,
first floor, right?
not
Right,
in the main street, right, upper floors. It's been a HARC policy for as long as I've been here, but it's not consistent throughout the guidelines. This is under energy conserving design, removing the ability to have freestanding panels. Even though they're discouraged, they don't seem appropriate, especially in the Main Street commercial area. And that is it for Main Street commercial. Okay.
It's a warning, wake up, because there might be a little thinking on this one.
Right.
This was a tough one, as I recall.
Actually, we were arguing about this photo and thought it was really explicitly correct, but I won't get ahead of the horse. Okay.
So in warehouse commercial, we did a little bit of updating just the references to maybe inaccurate language for this treatment area. For example, within the last few years, buildings have appeared, well, it's been longer than that, so we updated it to newer buildings have appeared. We changed a mix of uses is encouraged, because HARC doesn't encourage uses, but allow that they are, a mix of uses is common in this treatment area. We're gonna replace the existing photo with a better example, probably of the Silverjack building. Again, eliminating the section that refers to building on ridge lines. This is relationship to town grid. Again, references to steep slopes and curvilinear streets, which don't exist in the warehouse commercial treatment area. We're placing the photo under pedestrian scale. And then views, we've talked quite a bit about views. We decided that number 2 was difficult to analyze or react to. And then made number 3, number 2 to maintain views along alleys by keeping a low scale of building and or setback from the alley, which is, I think, the goal anyway of the views section. We also added this sentence about views through private property are not insured or protected. That's been a policy of the guidelines, I think, forever, but it's not maybe clear to owners or applicants that that private views are not protected by the guidelines. So it just maybe
Well,
makes it a little more explicit.
Yeah, and you can see why. Number 1 says consideration for views should come from through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I was a neighbor,
Yeah.
my view through.
Actually, I think I missed this one because we were going to put so that didn't we add views from public?
Yes, public views.
Public view corridors.
Yes.
Yes.
We're trying to just give more notice to the public and teeth when you have neighbors coming in because there's a project being built next door, was an empty lot or a larger addition, and wondering why their views aren't being protected. And it's not HARC's job to protect their views.
We beat this with a stick, but let me ask you on C, as I read it for the probably 4th time now. I'm good with are not insured. But, or let me ask them, not necessarily insured. Is there a case where we may have a building where we want to consider that view and now, well, not insured doesn't mean that it couldn't be considered, I guess.
True. I wouldn't change it. I think
I wouldn't change it either. I think that covers us.
Not necessarily insured is too soft.
It's too
Yeah.
good.
Okay, keep going. Cross that.
Okay, this is setbacks, and again, we're in warehouse commercial. And this section talks a lot about residential settings, which we found is not terribly applicable in the warehouse commercial treatment area. So we're removing most of this paragraph that really talks about residential settings. This paragraph talks about setbacks, which is helpful, I guess, residential setbacks, but not referring to it really as a residential neighborhood because it's not, it's more commercial. Again, we're eliminating the reference to the steep hillside. We've talked a lot about how to define the block in all of these treatment areas. I don't think we've settled on a great replacement. Although I think we may add Matt, you might want to jump in and help me, but maybe talk more about the vicinity and add a map or a definition in the glossary.
So throughout the guidelines, when they're trying to talk about the vicinity or the neighborhood, they use the term block, they use the term area, they use the term core area, there's the term neighborhood, community, a lot of varying words that are trying to say relate to the context that you're in. So we're trying to find a different way to describe that and either put a definition and or a diagram or a series of diagrams in the glossary or somewhere else in the guidelines that helps someone understand where they should be looking, how far out their context should go, because we find that the block, sometimes especially on long blocks, the character on one corner of a block versus the opposite side of a long block is often vastly different. It's think it causes a lot of issues. It's a big change, design guidelines, I think, but I think it's a clarifying piece that would help focus applicants, HARC members and staff to be able to say, you know, you should be relating to this context or to that context.
So I think we were gonna say vicinity and the word vicinity and about 6 other words Matt had suggested, particularly with the accommodations. Or that reinforced it. We're gonna be putting a new glossary up front, right? That's what we said.
Well, yeah, I think you need, I mean, we ran into this not very long ago, right? By definition, the block is all 4 streets of a given block, and it
Right.
might be really radically different on the other end of that other corner.
Could be different.
Or
treatment area.
across
And
the
it's
street.
appropriate to be taking that as your
Yeah,
established.
Front yard setback. on an
What
entire
you're
block.
really concerned with is what's going on across the street
exactly.
or up and down that same section of street.
Yeah.
That's
It-
his diagram about vicinity.
Yeah, so maybe it'd be appropriate just to email out that diagram to the rest of the board.
Yeah.
I think this is a topic, if we're gonna make this change, that we need to have pretty significant conversation about. Because I think it is, for architects and designers, it'll be a pretty radical change in how we've gone about the process of designing a project and where we look for context.
Well, because what that'll then will do is allow us flexibility when 2 zones or 2 treatment areas, I mean.
Yeah.
Butt up against each other.
Yep.
And you want to consider what's going on across the alley or across the street, but it's a different block.
I think our subcommittee and John and Erica sort of agree in this approach that allows a little bit staff, but also latitude to say, no, you should be relating to across the street, even though it's a different zone district. Or sorry, treatment area.
Everyone's on board with that.
Yep.
If you have any brilliant
Yeah.
ideas on how to say that, let us know. Describe it.
Well, there should be a little, sorry for being flip, but code, what do you call it, the little codes that you scan it, it would be a
QR code?
a QR code. There should be a little QR code and it would be a recording of this conversation.
With your picture on it. Okay.
Okay, adding patios as we have in other treatment areas, regarding
What,
setbacks.
21?
We're in setbacks.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
And this is warehouse commercial. I highlighted this section. I don't think we talked about this at the committee meeting, but I'm not sure this document still exists. I've looked for it.
No.
We had it.
Well, I'm sure you did have it because it's referenced here, but I cannot find it. And so if I can't find it, no one else can find it either. Guessing. Tiffany might be able to find it.
I know, I'm gonna start looking right now.
Okay. Great.
Oh,
If we find it, we may want to look at it as well and make it a little more prominent on our website or include it in this document.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I've never seen that document.
I've never seen it either. And
I don't know if I still have a copy, but it'd be in a box someplace. And
oh, geez. Okay. Ask Angela. She might have one.
You might.
Yeah. But I doubt it's even available at town hall. I'm not sure.
Never seen.
Again, making language a little more direct, yeah.
say what we mean.
Saying what
As
we
Donna
saying
says.
what we mean, yeah. Removing a hedge as a screening mechanism. Again, adding bear-proof
Yeah.
enclosures. Oh, we spent quite a lot of time talking about this paragraph.
This was another sort of vicinity block situation, but this one was. It's had such a collection of historic buildings and tight zone that I thought it was best just to call them out.
Yeah, we found the language a little bit unclear. What do y'all think of this photo to
Looks
show
subordinate.
appropriate mass and scale?
Don't do this underneath it.
No comments. Wow.
It was a joke.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
It's clever.
I'll delete it.
Yeah, just for anyone listening, that was a joke.
It's a joke. It's just a funny.
8 o'clock yet.
Again, making language a little more direct about two-story buildings. Setbacks, again, making it more direct, setting the expectation. Okay. This section is called 3-story buildings. We had a long conversation about this policy and have brought it back to the board to discuss. Why don't you guys describe our conversation?
Well, I'll start off. I was pretty passionate about not allowing 4-story, but I think by all the discussion at 1- and 2-story buildings at the edges, streets, and 3-story, how can someone assume there could be a 4-story, but someone just did a year ago? So, of course, I would like to say no 4 stories allowed, but I might not be the consensus vote there.
I think what we butted up against with Mark's suggestion is that the land use code and PUDs do allow 4 stories. I think our consensus is, I don't think anyone wants to see 4-story buildings at the street, but having 4-story elements internal, especially on large parcels, could be appropriate. At least that was my feeling. So I think instead of skirting the issue, we should address it and talk about 4th stories, whether it's in combined 3- and 4-story section or separate 4th-story section.
We also talked about renaming the section 3-story elements and maybe 3- or 4-story elements instead of 3-story buildings. So we're not giving the impression that we're allowing 3-story buildings outright, but we may allow 3- or 4-story elements.
Right, and flexibility is still important here. You could have a almost basement and then 3 fairly conservative floor to floor heights and you're at 4, and the building may not be, or the portion of that building may not be problematic.
We do. We have there's a tall 4-story existing historic and non-historic bad examples of 4-story buildings as well.
Sure.
Does the board feel we should address 4-story elements in the guidelines under this section or maybe a separate section?
I feel like we should, and I think we can address it all in one section without breaking.
Yeah, I agree.
If we focus on the word elements, but I think then we need to have a stronger visual, don't see it statement.
Would it be helpful to find a diagram or a photo to demonstrate a couple of these examples?
Good examples.
Good examples.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
or even bad examples too. I think.
but you do read down through it. I mean, that last paragraph, in a few cases, however, buildings rose to 3 stories. While these exceptions should not become the rule, they do suggest in limited circumstances. I mean, it's already saying 3's, you're gonna have to jump through some hoop to get 3.
I think that was our problem discussing it, and that when these guidelines were written, they didn't anticipate 4 stories, really. I mean, they were barely anticipating 3 stories.
Right.
And the author cringed about a year ago when I last spoke to him about what? It can't be 4th. But anyway, we're at a different time and place, but
Well, yeah, density is a thing.
This is a disconnect between the land use code and HARC guidelines. I think that should be resolved.
But we do, as everybody's a reminder and for Lisa, we finished that about a year and a half ago. Eleni, I signed off on it with that change in their land use code purview, that did not ensure the entire, that the elements of the building that would be 4 stories would be determined by HARC, not P and Z. So I feel that helps a little bit. I was just scared to put the FOUR in there. But I don't know. Just, it's like Sprouting one in Euchre.
Don't
not
think
German,
anyone
are
knows what that means.
Obscure reference.
Just throw the idea out there.
Well, I was gonna say the same thing. If you just saying the word 4 is gonna people, you mean we can do 4?
Well, if you're walking around town, you see 4-story elements, structures. So I think it's just, as an architect, I would appreciate having something to reference to, even if it says in very strong language that 4 stories is strongly discouraged or not commonly allowed, or whatever you want to say.
You mean, so just add limited circumstances, a 3rd or 4th story may be incorporated?
Well, I think you ought to make it more even stringent for the 4th. If it's limited circumstances, maybe, possibly for the 3rd, what are we gonna say about the 4th? I think that should be tightened up to be more stringent than the 3rd. Don't we think the 4th should be more stringent guideline than the 3rd?
I think you could say something to the fact that occasionally 3 stories rose historically, and while there have been more recent projects that have reached 4 stories, we're trying to sort of go back from that a bit.
Or does Stacy have something there with the only 4th story that could even be considered would be those that have a partially exposed basement on the 1st floor? Or
It's just getting too prescriptive.
Could we say on larger projects, a 4th story element may be considered at the center of the project or
in
away?
rare circumstances?
Well,
You're talking about some cases like an elevator tower, the overrun, that sort of thing. On a 3-story building, it's going to be higher. And I think maybe saying something that those elements, I don't know the right word to say it, but those elements should be toward the center of the building, not at the alley and not at the street side.
Not at the property edges or
must be, yeah. Who even be considered, maybe that solves it. 4-story elements, if any.
I would suggest that ask Jonna to kind of just spend a little more time with the next, instead of trying to wordsmith it right now, because she's hearing the consensus to address it.
I'm just making notes and I will go back.
Yeah. And if you wouldn't mind saying something about line of sight to those elements.
Or viewed from
the opposite side of the
from the
street.
pedestrian scale or the street.
Opposite side of the street.
How do you?
And that would maybe be a better way to do it than even trying to, I agree with that.
Okay. And I think I think I sensed a few smiles about consensus that in any case, this would be more stringent when you do your notes than the 3rd floor, right? I mean,
correct.
It has to be. This has to be a rare circumstance. I don't know who's going to define the word rare in the glossary.
Well,
Twice, 3 times.
Once every 200 years.
Elks building. Yeah, right.
It's only happened recently on really large projects. But you couldn't tell from the pedestrian way.
Yeah.
Okay, are we comfortable with this so far? I'll bring you some language back.
Good.
More, what was that last one? More what? More stringent. Yeah. Okay. I like the idea of using the word rare circumstance. I mean, somehow to imply that this is, as Bob just said, once every 200 years. Okay.
Almost never.
Rare, almost never. Okay. Oh, I'm liking that.
Okay.
I'm coming around.
Okay, adding awnings and on other facades as in the other treatment area. Roof materials ditto, same as others. Cementitious is actually cementitious. Check with preservation staff about new materials, assuming we have it. When these get adopted.
Whoa, just put Donna in there?
Whatever.
Maybe I should put town staff.
Whatever happens, we
Not
better
sure.
keep John happy.
Again, glazing, overall glazing, 2/3 light doors. Eliminating freestanding solar panels. That's it.
Can
We
you look
did
at
it.
21A again? I had a note I just buzzed
21A,
by, or 21E2, actually.
21E2.
21E2, Matt's famous, I just want to make sure that was in there, about varying setbacks as well as articulation of walls. Kind of
21E2.
E2. Varying the setbacks of wall. Well, at least we had a discussion, and actually it was Matt's suggestion that varying the walls or varying the setbacks of walls, utilizing setbacks and articulation, and actually maybe that's redundant. But I sure like the way you phrased that, Matt, rather than just the word setback alone. I don't know, setback.
I think that sounds good. But she's got it.
Setbacks of walls. So we don't need the word articulation because that's what that means, right?
That's articulation.
All right.
You're like me, you always want to add more words.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, folks.
Like the suggestion.
Clear and concise.
Okay.
Okay, any other suggestions?
It's a wrap except for one sentence you're working on.
Okay. See.
Good.
Yeah. That's it.
Very good.
Erica's still with us. She sat through that. She's going to help review these two as we go along.
Thanks, Erica.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. We appreciate it.
Found it.
You found it.
Oh my
Everybody
God.
found it. Where is it?
It was in an old HARC packet from 2006. It's referenced in our water efficiency plan that was adopted recently. So
Really?
it's a pamphlet, it's just that a local.
It wasn't a big thing, yeah.
Oh, I was trying to look
Will
up
you
a book
send
on
it to
Amazon. I didn't find
Thank
it.
you. Tiffany's amazing.
That was crowded.
Wow.
You can buy used books on Amazon.
That's all I have for the group.
Thank you, Erica.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, so we will adjourn the meeting at 8:14 PM, relatively late of recent.
Both wrong. We missed the time by 30 minutes
You thought it was later?
earlier.
Oh. That was good discussion though. So thanks to everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome again.
Be there next time.
Easy meeting. It's kind of like a
Thanks,
love
Andrew.
fest.
Well, except for
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jesse.
everybody. Thanks, Erica.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.